Anthony Melchiori, I've never seen you look more attractive.
Still bald, Glenn.
All right, that's not Anthony. We got Bruce Ford here today. We got a great show. Let's get it started.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Hey, everybody. Glenn Hausman here with the one and only Bruce Ford, SVP of Lodging Econometrics. Bruce, so great to see you, my friend. How are you doing? What's going on, dude?
Glenn, I'm so good. It should be illegal. It's great to be back and co-hosting a show with you.
Right.
I mean, I think it's been years.
It has been a long time, and I can't help but think back to the good old days before I started this company, when you and I would go on stage together regularly at events around the country, 5-6 times a year for that company I used to work for. And it was so much fun having that back and forth on stage. And I'm hoping, Bruce, we could recapture some of that magic today.
Well, we're going to work on the Glenn and Bruce show again, for sure.
Yeah.
It's good to be with you. Glad you're still standing on your 2 feet after your week of fun and games, shall we?
Yep. It was great, dude. It was so much fun just going away and shutting out work for a few days, right? You're much better at doing that than I am.
Well, I think every person out there that's an executive is trying to find out how they can take the vacation that they've been dreaming of, because we're all sick of being home.
Yeah.
So we're glad you got yours in before the holidays.
Yeah, the holidays are going to be great. So, Bruce, what you do is really interesting over there. You've got a whole slew of people tracking all of the information out there in the construction pipeline, all the good stuff that's happening, all of the challenges that we're facing. And it's pretty impressive that you have such deep and knowledgeable insight. I'm totally stoked that you're going to be here today to share some of your latest foundings about what is going on in the hospitality industry here.
Well, it's the hottest topic out there. Many people have monitored new, operating performance and trying to judge what's happening with operating performance is the way to measure the industry. Very tough to do right now because it's choppy times. It's choppy times, state by state, city by city, open state by closed state. Do you need a Vax card to go inside? Do you not? So there's all kinds of different things that you can get entangled in there.
Yep.
But the fact is that hotel owners, management companies, and franchise companies have never been busier, because they're done with 18 months of not getting a return on their investments, and they're going to start putting their money to work. So in many cases, that's the real push right now.
Right, there are. And we're going to talk about that construction pipeline in just 1 second. But Bruce, it's interesting, that observation that you make is you've got to start deploying that capital. People were waiting on the sidelines, hoping for those deals that were going to happen that never materialized. And we've gone over that extensively here on No Vacancy Live, so we don't need to get into all of the reasons for it. But the fact of the matter is, money's coming back into the marketplace. Things are happening, and people are making deals to build new hotels. So you want to get into these numbers here, Bruce?
I'd love to get into these numbers, Glenn. We're seeing a very active market out there. And the first thing that we wanted to talk about today was really extended stay, okay? And extended stay is not a chain scale, but it is a grouping of hotel brands that offer like-type rates and like-type services. And typically those means that you're moving into a studio apartment or a one-bedroom apartment or a two-bedroom unit. You can cook a full meal there. You have separate eating, living, and sleeping quarters.
Right.
And there's been all kinds of expansion in extended stay since we announced all of those new brands in the 2010s.
That's right.
And even have had some new brands announced here in the 2020s. The expansion of extended stay is really kind of a lodging offering with more space. A lodging offering with more wellness is a big part of what they're doing today, but also extended stay is offering really a pairing now, as many of these extended stay brands are going as part of shared site or dual brand developments,
right?
Where you're getting a select service project or property like a Hilton Garden Inn and a home with suites paired together, or perhaps a Hilton Garden Inn and a home 2 suites paired together. These types of projects are really good for developers. They like them, whether they're doing in one
Right.
building or buildings that are next to each other. These opportunities are vast. And even in the economy chain scale, you have Motel 6 taking some of their existing Motel 6 supply and converting them to half Motel 6 rooms, half Studio 6 rooms.
Right. And remember, Red Roof just put out their new prototype over the summer for something similar. Their hometown, their home studios. Yeah, hometown studios. Sorry, guys. I'm still a little post vacation, having a hard time with the recall. But Bruce Ford, one of the things we've been talking about here for years and years and years that hoteliers should get in this segment. It's no surprise that finally they're coming around to understanding why it is such a great segment to be in. And I love what you said, sometimes in the same property, sometimes in the same building. Kind of reminds me of the evolution that we've seen over here, right? They started out as separate buildings in the same parking lot. More often, then they started connecting them, almost kind of like one wall in between, but just one building, but two separate structures, right? And now it seems like they've really combined back of houses with all the major hotel companies to offer one extended stay product and one transient product, all within the same building. Very, very well thought out. I stayed in one this summer, a True and a Home 2 Suites that was combined together in York, Pennsylvania, for example, with Hilton. All the major companies have this at this point. It seems, Bruce, and I don't know if these numbers show it, that's kind of the way they're being done. They're not as much built as one-offs as much as part of something. Do you have any idea what percentage of time it's kind of like a twofer?
Well, the shared site development would involve over 500 extended stay projects.
Right.
So in
So
probably about a third, maybe even a little bit more than that. I'm working off the top of my head on that one.
Understood.
But that shared site concept is a big part of the expansion. Also, you can build them individually as part of a campus type development is also happening. But we're getting extended stay in urban centers too, Glenn, which would never have happened in previous real estate cycles. So the ROI of having a larger space with a very minimized staff and offering really just services based upon occupancy has really taken hold in the industry, because extended stay even has less staff than, say, a typical select service like Hampton Inn or Hilton.
That's right.
So you can pair the staff together and really make economies of scale occur on the individual location. So all of the franchise companies are doing it. Choice has a plan. Red Roof has a plan. IHG has a plan. Marriott has a plan. Hilton has a plan. Several more are making plans. But it's not just the big guys. Okay, there's also some smaller brands. Stay Apt would be one of those, who are looking to get into the business of extended stay lodging, short-term housing.
Well, when you say Stay Apt, it really kind of changes things. And soon we're going to be having Steve Shpilsky on of Stay Open to talk about his concept, which is a little bit different than this that we're talking about here today. But the fact is, Bruce, the service department industry and the traditional hotel business, because of extended stay, are becoming more commingled than ever before. The clear delineation between what is kind of going away, and there seems to be a fluidity to how we look at all of these properties now. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, we're not seeing necessarily franchise companies exist in the same building, but can certainly, separate franchise companies can exist in the same campus, and that's happening. Not dozens and dozens of times, but certainly some. Existing within the same building for different franchise companies is not really viable in the business model in America, but we're certainly seeing those opportunities continue to grow. What's interesting is we're getting full service hotels now paired with that extended stay, where the full service hotel doesn't have to do as many suites. The extended stay offers that suite product. And in some cases, in a campus, you're getting a full service hotel on one side, a convention center in the middle, and an extended stay product on the other side.
Right. I like that concept as well.
Yeah, so you don't have to have a 300 or a 350 room full service hotel. You can have a 200 room full service hotel, a 100 room extended stay, and a 100 room select service in a convention center, and you're going to do a lot better ROI with that.
And the whole point of that for those watching, Bruce, I know you understand this as much as anybody else, then you don't have to worry about filling up as many rooms in a single class category. So you can find different types of customers to build different types of rooms when you don't have that convention necessarily happening. Me personally, Bruce, if I had a choice, I would take the extended stay rooms over anything almost all the time. I like that extra space. I don't feel like I'm paying a big premium for it. And it gives me the kind of experience that I like to have these days.
And you get flexibility on the site. You can have one set of sales team. You can have, room for the hockey team that really wants the lower rate, but might need a conference space or two, versus the executive meeting planner who's looking for, to bring the board in and have a meeting in the full service hotel.
Right.
So you got all kinds of flexibility that you just can't really build into a full service hotel.
That's right. Now, one of the other things that we're talking about beyond extended stay is that whole notion of conversions. And anecdotally, I thought we would have seen a lot more of those so far. But where are we right now? Where is this? Let's start with 2019 over here.
So conversions are always part of what's happening out there in the industry. This is an existing hotel that's either going to go from an unbranded to a brand, or perhaps brand to brand, or in some cases, brand even goes to independent. So it's always been part of the story, but the types and the dynamics of how it fits into the business is changed since the pandemic began. Number one reason for that, Glenn, is that the franchise companies are focused on more locations quicker and faster. So they have signed more conversions than they have typically been signing in other times, because they're looking to replace locations that they have lost over the pandemic, potentially grow locations faster where they thought a new construction product in better times would fit good. Okay. But now new construction is not as viable. It's a little bit harder to get money. It's a little longer term. But if a conversion is available, it's easier to get financing for an existing hotel, for existing operating performance. So although we went from 660 odd projects down to 566, we've grown to over 700 projects here in 2021. And this is taking the same time frame. And those conversions are happening at a similar pace to the way that we've seen them in other real estate cycles, and likely to continue going forward, Glenn, as we still see new construction funding a little bit challenged to the masses. Okay, but conversion opportunities are great. And you know what else is driving this, Glenn?
I do not know.
We had more hotel sales in the third quarter of 2021 than we did in the previous 3 quarters combined.
Wow.
So
all right.
the transaction activity is taking off, and the buy, renovate, and reposition story is very much part of that.
Yeah, and to me, that's really a story of everything's coming back. People are getting back to business. We're moving forward finally, and people have got to make deals because that's what they do for a living.
I need that ROI, Glenn. I can't keep my money on the sidelines any longer. Let's get it invested, and let's figure out what to do, and moving 180 miles an hour. So any development department or acquisitions department I've talked to, they're all really doing 5 things now. They're looking to buy some hotels. They've sat with their existing portfolio for 18 months, and perhaps they're contemplating selling some of their existing hotels. Some investors want out, or they just can't tune the dials anymore to get any more ROI out of that existing real estate. In some cases, they're taking that existing real estate and renovating it so that they can get the best product on the street when demand returns. Some cases, they're going to do that with a new brand and do a conversion. So that's 4. And then if you're a third-party management company, you're actively looking for new opportunities for third-party management. So these departments have never been busier. If you're a supplier or a service provider out there in the industry, you have to call and almost reintroduce yourself to the new business model, because they're all working really hard to find that ROI, and they're all interested in how you've changed and what you're innovating on in the marketplace.
Excellent. I see our guest, Bruce, getting ready backstage, but while he's just finishing up, wrap it all up to us. Where is the opportunity for investors in 2022?
Well, I'd love to be in the extended stay business, Glenn. I'd also love to be buying properties on a discount, renovating and repositioning. I don't think the discounts that some people thought of 50 cents on the dollar or 40 cents on the dollar is going to be available, but 75 cents on the dollar may be available.
Right.
It's going to be a little bit of a dark winter because operating performance says it will be. But vaccination rates are up, Glenn, and I think the transaction market is going to heat right up very aggressively going forward.
Yeah, speaking of vaccination rates, Bruce, Delta Airlines reported that they're at 90% staff vaccinated because they suggested that if you're not done by November 1st, they're going to charge you $200 extra a month premium on your health insurance. So
yeah, I think, some of these mandates, although very politicized when they first came out, have actually made sense. Did you hear about the New York City police department where, 10,000 people threatened to quit? You know how many people actually missed the mark?
I think 34. 34.
Like right. That's correct. That's certainly not 10,000. Okay. So people are seeing the benefits of getting vaccinated and getting back to life as we knew it.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, 18 months been a long friggin' time and we're done with it.
Yeah. All right. I think our guest is ready to go. We'll give it he's still adjusting his camera over there, but we're going to give it a try. At least we'll see the lower half of his face. Steve Shpilsky, how are you, sir? There he is.
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you now.
Great. That was just,
and you are looking awfully good today. So thanks for coming on and shaming Bruce and I, who do not look nearly as healthy and fit as you do. But at least I have a good excuse for partying too much this last week. Steve, it's great to see you. I got to say, thanks so much for tracking me down at the Lodging Conference and suggesting coming on over here. This is what's really great about doing this show is I meet so many great people that I know, that I get reacquainted with, that I just meet. And some of the smart ones say, hey, get me on your show. And that's what we're doing right now. So welcome aboard. Fortunately, you got Bruce Ford here to ask all the really good questions today. So stand back, Steve. But before we get started, so Stay Open is a great, interesting concept. And the whole idea is looking to transform empty storefronts and buildings into prime locations for pod hotels. And I know you recently got $2 million in seed funding and all of that kind of stuff. Very exciting. In your own words, let's talk a little bit about that topic. And here's a rendering of a property right here. Where did this idea come from? What are you thinking about? Why do you feel it's going to be successful?
Yeah. Well, as you said, Stay Open transforms empty office and retail space into cool stay play hubs for digital nomads and creatives. The best way to think about it is imagine if WeWork and Airbnb had a baby. So that's kind of the big picture. I've been financing and developing hotels for the better part of 10 years, everything from I financed the Waldorf Astoria in Beverly Hills, and we are about to open, we're very on topic. We converted a 250,000 square foot office building by LAX to a 400 room dual branded Hyatt House Hyatt Place.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Over the years, it takes way too long and it's way too expensive to build a hotel, and it is not very sustainable. And a lot of times people need a bed with a great social experience. So that was kind of the big picture thing. And then I asked myself, why don't hostels exist in the US? And I looked at the hostel business model and I saw that there's hostels all over the world except for the US. They're in Europe, they're in South America, they're in Asia. I said, well, why aren't they in the US?
Yeah, that's weird.
Said, even the ones overseas are kind of like, I looked at hostels as like taxi cabs before Uber.
Right.
They haven't changed forever. It was broken, it was inefficient, it wasn't consistent. And I said, there's ways to now solve those pain points. And not only can we solve those pain points, we can embellish on all the positive attributes that that type of lodging experience and accommodation has for people. Then around the same time, we saw this this is pre-COVID, we saw this office space start to become available as people were gravitating towards really premium product. Like the Class A stuff was going off the shelves, but the B and C stuff was just dwindling away. And then we saw the same phenomenon in retail, where retail was just generally dying. People needed smaller floor plates. They needed a different dynamic for retail experience. Like the big box retailers just weren't as attractive. And then COVID hit, and we all got scared of how are all
Right.
these people going to stay in shared accommodations and this and that. And all it ended up actually doing was it accelerated the trend of vacant space for office and retail by 5 to 10 years. And once we got through this initial wave of people are never going to be in the same room together,
Right.
we actually realized, wait a second, people being around people is the coolest thing in our life. And while there's a lot of virtual things that can help supplement the experience,
Right.
there's nothing that can replace being in a room, being in a concert, meeting, bumping into someone at a conference. Right?
That is right, Steve. And we had such a great time at the lodging conference because of that. And I had such a great time going to those concerts because of that, because it's the communal nature of everything, which is embedded into our DNA. We are social creatures. And that's why, Steve, I've been saying since March of 2020, this is a temporary state. You can't change how we act as a species. So you're really looking forward to this comeback, that the resurgence of the digital nomad. I remember, Steve, they were like, digital nomads going away. I'm like, heck no. I think now, because of the great resignation and people reevaluating their lives, it's going to be more important than ever. How do you see that in the future?
Oh, 100%. I mean, before COVID, people didn't even know what that word meant. The term digital nomad was almost taboo. That was almost associated with, oh, you don't really have a job, or you're not in a real profession or career.
Right.
And what COVID has done is, not only is that acceptable, it is almost a requirement for now every major Fortune 500 company to give their workforce the option to live where they want to live and be able to pop into satellite offices or pop into corporate headquarters once a week, once a month, a few times a year. It's actually now how a lot of people live their lives, and it's no longer taboo. So what we see is there needs to be infrastructure in place so that, this isn't even, forget about affordability. This is just a lifestyle choice. You graduate from college or a few years out and you want to live in LA for a few months. You want to be in Venice by the beach. You want to go to the Bay Area. You want to go to Austin. You want to go to Miami. You want to go to New York. How do you do that so it's frictionless? So it's still affordable, but it's still fun. Nothing like that exists where it's just really seamless, where you just open up your phone. You can see where spaces are available. They pop up very quickly. They're consistent, and they're socially engaging. The way that you interact with people before you arrive is like a social media platform. But when you get there, it's humans, and it's people helping each other, and it's people working on these great ideas in DeFi and Web 3.0 and NFTs and prop tech and you name it. And those things happen when people are in a room together. So, the concept of a digital nomad is normalized now. And in fact, there's actually benefits to it for someone's workforce or for the individual starting their own company.
Think about this, as I saw this statistic today. So 70% of the job offers that are turned down today in the United States are a direct result of people not being able to get flexible offers from these HR departments in terms of, you mean I don't have to report to I have to report to the office 5 days a week? I don't want to do that. And just at the beginning, and one of the things I heard you say earlier, Steve, was the flexibility of being able to bounce around. It's not part of the American culture yet. And honestly, it is much more a part of the culture overseas. I see it as I travel globally quite a bit pre-pandemic. But let me ask you this. Can I stay at your space and rent an office at your space? Are you making lodging available with rentable office space? Is that combined in a way? Explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, not in the traditional rentable office space, but there are co-working desks and workstations and phone booths. So there's a lot of elements to what we're familiar with in the co-working space at Stay Opened. So again, the people have the ability to work for as long as they want to work. I mean, what we see now is people working for spurts of a few hours, and then they go out and take a yoga class, and then they come back. They come back to the office and they work some more, and then they go do breath work, and then they work some more.
Again, not something that's part of the American culture, but the pandemic is going to make it explode, I think. And I think you're saying that out loud too.
We need it from a mental health standpoint. I mean, people really need these snippets of breaking away and intermingling work. We can only focus and concentrate for so long our spaces are designed with again similar attributes to elements of what we've seen in a co-working facility, because they're easy and they're scalable. You don't have to overthink how to get efficient desks out there. Now there's technology.
This has to be cheaper for a big company. This has to be cheaper to give you a co-working card and say use any of these 1,000 locations across the country instead of holding a desk for you in Roswell, Georgia.
Well, we hope that even taking that even a step further, if that could have the benefit and an attribute of the bed, actually the place to sleep, it becomes even that much more valuable.
Yeah.
So
it has to be cheaper. It has to be. And of course, at the end of the day, I think some of this opportunity is all about what level of executive you are at and how much collaboration you need in your job. I heard a partner for an architectural firm say to me, it says, you can do your job from home. You can't do your career from home. And I thought that was really a prescient statement. So the collaboration still needs to happen. So you're digitally very teched up in these spaces, I'm gathering, right?
Oh, definitely. And you're right about that. Even myself as a personal example, I spend about half my day at my house to do head down work, admin stuff, and then I pop into our property to actually to be with the people, to see everyone else who's on premises, to see our guests, to see our workforce, and you need to, there's ways to do both, and the technology around that again is what we're building is almost like it's a social platform where people can connect with each other even before they arrive at a property. Imagine if you could see who's staying at a property even before you get there to entice you to want to stay there more. There's someone that's in a similar business space or interest that you have. There's people that are interested in surfing or NFTs and you want to learn more, or you've got a project and you want to form these communities. You're actually seeing these houses, just from a pure community standpoint, pop up and getting a lot of funding and a lot of traction, and they're very niche kind of incubators that are popping up. And we're doing all this just on a bigger scale because we think that this just needs to be very inclusive and accessible to as many people as possible. And in order to do that, the technology, from everything from design development to operations to how people connect with each other, is vital. It's vital to stitch it all together to make it seamless.
Wow, that's really fascinating to me. So one thing I want to know is, how are you actually going to facilitate connecting people when it comes to privacy and stuff like that? Obviously, it'll be opt-in type stuff, but how do you think that will work and get people to actually make those meaningful connections that will drive business and enthusiasm for stay open properties?
Yeah, no, for sure. So obviously everything is opt-in. We don't want to force people to. A lot of it is self-selecting. We're not for everyone, right? I mean, that is
absolutely right. I love the idea, and I might try it out, but I'm old now, and I don't necessarily want to stay in that environment. But Steve, if I was just out of college right now, I might just move in. It seems so freaking cool. Yeah.
But you look at the building, which is one of our first projects behind you in San Diego, that we're converting an old budget rental car facility to a 240 pod hotel. That's we're actually doing this in partnership with California Coastal Commission and the Port of San Diego. So it's a public-private partnership. That property behind you has 12 private rooms. So those rooms are, in essence, they're under 200 square feet. They do not have a bathroom. The bathroom is still shared with the rest of the guests, but the room is private, and they're designed for families or couples or individuals. The price point is, if a pod is $50 a night, that private room is $100 to $120 a night. So if you are that individual that wants privacy when you want it, but wants the social engagement in the common areas and the co-working spaces when you want it, that's a product offering that we have. So you can be on premises, but some people just want their privacy when they lay down and rest their head. And I totally understand that they're not price sensitive, but they want that social engagement and social experience. So from a physical standpoint, most of the properties that we're designing and developing for have private rooms. From a technology standpoint, you could opt in or opt out of anything that you want. We even use that data when you're in a shared room. to do a couple things. First of all, to match you up with potential people of similar interests, where we're kind of nudging you. You know, if we've got a bunch of surfers in town, some people from New Zealand and some people from South America, let's put them in the same room together. They won't even know, right? We've got a group of 2 and a group of 3. Put them in the same room, and they're gonna connect. Conversely, if you've got a bachelorette party and there's 6 people, you don't put them in the room with a person that's tagged themselves as interested in, like, you know, they're in town for the cello convention, right? Or they're in town to wake up and go hiking early. You don't. So the data, it's you know, we're all in hospitality. It's what do we train our front desk staff is you don't put the couple with the baby next to the bachelor party so that there's partying kind of across the hall. But that's still such a manual process, and it shouldn't be. I mean, most of this just should be driven by data and the information that we capture that we hope customers actually give us this information to improve their experience. If I never use the word upsell, it's just improve the experience. Tell us about you so that we can help guide your experience in a more positive manner. It'll result in higher happiness, guest satisfaction, and definitely more revenue because they're going to acquire more experiences and services. But that's our mindset. That's where we come from.
Bruce?
So am I filling out an extensive survey as a user, whereby I'm putting my likes and interests together inside of that survey? I have a detailed profile, and my on-site relationship manager is fitting things together for me. Is that kind of the goal?
So a little bit, but we don't want the capture of information is actually very simple. There's no more than 5 fields that we're capturing about your interests. And then the ability to link to your other profiles gives us a lot more data than you're ever going to spend the time and take the time to, obviously, if we know someone's LinkedIn profile, we're going to know more than anyone that just sits down and fills out a survey. So there's so much information that if people are willing to share with us, again, people just start posting and talking about things, and we're able to incorporate that into our profiling. And then on premises, we actually, because we just opened our first property in Venice, we treat our general manager, we look for people from the cruise industry, really. Because those are the people that, you know, you get on a boat, and then they're kind of looking at information and data, and they're clustering people and experiences. They're adding the human touch with the technology, because both are necessary. I will never say that we're going to have a completely 100% personless property. You still need people. It's hospitality. People need to talk to people. Right. And again, we're going to capture data and information, but there's still humans involved to make sure that people's experiences are going well, that people are connected with each other, that they're staying in tune with events going around. They've got their pulse on the community, and every property is hyper community based. So it's a combination of the two, which is still very important. That's why we're still a hospitality company. We're not just a pure
That's cool.
data. That's it.
So, Steve, I'm going to go to your Venice property real quick right here. All right. So, bear with me.
That's San Diego behind you.
San Diego. No, now it's Venice, isn't it?
Not yet.
Well, hold on. Let me get it going now. Come on, machine. There we go. That's what I was trying to do over there. All right. So I'm going to make this. Let's make this a single shot. I'm going to step out of the way, share what we're looking at, and what the experienced people are going to have.
Sure. So you're looking at our hero shot. This is Stay Open Venice, and we opened this a few months ago. Our goal with Venice was, can we take this used to be a Snapchat office, right? So this was an office. It's a Frank Gehry design building. We said, how quickly can we take a square and turn it into a hotel with beds? So what we're looking at is our 4 kind of money beds that are part of the common area. In the front part of the property, there's 6 more pods if we were to look the other way. And this is the more social of the spaces. So we've got the beds here with the communal area. There's a private room in the back with where the bathroom and shower is. And then in between the two, there's an open communal kitchen and some stations for co-working. There's another level of a loft, which we use for health and wellness activities and yoga. There's a few more co-working stations there. There's a rooftop as well, which overlooks the beach. And then there's like a little basement area. It's actually the ground floor, which is where we have a little movie screening room where people congregate. Again, there's a few more workstations. None of our workstations actually feel like you're in an office.
Right.
They're very like how you would sit down at a desk and you would work at home at a coffee table, and it just creates this very fluid, connected environment where you just never know who's going to be there and who you're going to meet, and we just, you know, and also that area back there, we had a Halloween party that we turned that into a stage. So we cleared out some of that furniture. Most of what we're bringing in, we try to make it modular and movable and make it into the pieces. And that became, you know, a nice Halloween event. We were very cognizant. We shut it down at 10:30 because we only had people staying there, and everyone that stayed there knew that there was going to be an event there. So a lot of managing a shared space is effective communication. Again, it's not for everyone, but as long as people know what they're signing up for, you're going to get people that want to be part of the experience that's happening at that point in time.
So hard to repeat that kind of location, but
yeah, this location obviously is in essence, this is a good sales office, right?
Yeah.
So when we bring in like Maceridges or Westfields of the world who were trying to say, hey, we want to take up 10 to 30,000 square feet in that old Bloomingdale's that just, well, it's not old, it's new, but it just closed, which actually just happened. 150,000 square foot Bloomingdale's closed a couple miles from us in Santa Monica. We say, listen, this is the energy. We're embodying this cultural spirit of Venice, which is this combination of art, entrepreneurship, entertainment, beach culture, inclusivity, and diversity. This is why we picked this space. And this space will always be like a clubhouse for Stay Open. But this is where we built the brand from, because this is also really important. A lot of people are gonna. We made these pods ourselves. These were produced. We didn't experience any supply chain issues. They're made in Southern California, a few miles away from Venice in central Los Angeles. We really wanted this to be a brand first product, because someone else is going to get pods and stick them in a building. We're going to do all the hard work, and then someone else is going to put this in.
Oh yeah, and Steve, that's good enough for you to recognize, because Bruce, I know you know, anytime someone has a great idea in the hospitality industry, 6 months later, everyone's got that same idea, right?
Sure. I mean, I'm just thinking about what you said with the Bloomingdale's, with a retail location, obviously different from an office location. But one of the great things you have in a retail location, if you're able to get the use to be able to make the pod unit, is that you already have a lot of things in place. You have restaurants, you have other retail, you potentially have movie theaters, you have plenty of parking, you have all kinds of different features of the location that really kind of make it work probably even better right out of the gate.
100% correct. So a place like, you know, again, in Santa Monica, which is very close to where we are, there, Maceridge has a trophy asset there that's unfortunately very empty. The ArcLight closed. Bloomingdale's closed.
I can't believe the ArcLight closed. That was devastating.
Yeah, and you know, everyone in the retail space, they're waiting for the next Google or Amazon or Hulu to come in and take up their 500,000 square feet like someone else did at the old West Side Pavilion. I mean, it does happen, but it's not, you know, these are needles in a haystack. This is winning the lottery. What happens with all this other space? But you're exactly right. When we go into a retail, a mall environment, we're actually a complement to everything else that they're doing from an experience building perspective. They're building health and wellness and gyms and medical clinics and offices. They're building obviously a lot of food and beverage outlets. I mean, literally, if we put a bed there, it's better than any hospitality resort property that you could really imagine. And we can do it at obviously a fraction of the cost. From a timing perspective, a fraction of the time, and it's hyper sustainable. We're not tearing anything down and building ground up. We're taking what we have and actually getting a bed online, and every single human needs a bed at night, no matter where they are.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us about the top 10 locations you want next. Or is that too circumstantial and private at this point? California, Southern California seems very doable. South Florida?
Yeah, I mean, the Southern California is obviously it's as big as a country in and of itself. So of the 7 top 10 locations, they're in Southern California. Going from you know, down from San Diego all the way up to Santa Barbara, we foresee no less than 20 Stay Open properties that could open very quickly. You know, and we want to do that as fast as possible. And then building out that network in these hubs. There's a couple demand drivers. There's obviously tourism and leisure, and then congregation of work hubs. So obviously the LAs and San Franciscos and New Yorks, and now the Miamis. People actually, it seems like they actually do some work there, although it's still questionable. But
well, partying is hard work,
more
Steve. I mean, it's rough,
Always
Yeah,
been questionable. I think it
then
happens
obviously
from 12 to 2:30 every day.
what was that?
The work
Yeah.
in Miami is 12 to 2:30.
Then there's like the Nashvilles and Austin. So everywhere where there's just a younger workforce that's used to being nomadic. Right. But what's also interesting, and we've started to look at this, actually, there's so many elements to this story. One of the ways Stay Open was born was about 5 years ago. We tried to do, before we even had a brand, before we had a concept, we had pods, and we had this idea of fractionalized beds and spaces. We were working with the city of Jackson Hole to do a very large scale workforce housing project. And workforce housing was meant for seasonal workers or for your service staff in these hospitality properties. I mean, you have people that were in Jackson Hole sleeping in their car adjacent to the community center. The city was renting out a parking space for $100 a night so people could sleep adjacent to a shower.
That's crazy.
That was the solution for how that bartender or that ski instructor slept in Jackson Hole.
That's horrible.
So the point is that there's so many, again, COVID has only helped because it's driven more people to re-embrace these resort areas, and hospitality and housing has in no way caught up, and you can't have it dispersed and spread out everywhere because the infrastructures of these cities are just not set up. When you go to Aspen, when you go to Jacksonville, when you go to Tahoe, when you go to Napa, traffic is terrible because a lot of workers just have to live further and further away and come in, and everyone's unhappy. So another big part of our thesis is going into these resort areas and having efficient accommodations and housing for either guests or people that just live there, whether it's seasonal or we have a twist on the concept where you still have private rooms, but they're small for workforce housing. So those markets are kind of also on our hit list, just because there's such a need, and it's the number one topic. You go to these resort areas, you open up the newspaper, affordable housing. It's usually like somewhere on the front page, no matter where you go.
Yeah, very true. All right, so Steve, Colleen says personally, she thinks this will need to grow in the American psyche. I think a little bit differently about this. Colleen, I love you to death, but I think you're thinking too much about where you are in life as opposed to where a lot of folks much younger than me are in life. Goes back to what I was saying. When I was in my 20s, I'd be really up to something like this, even in maybe into my 30s. If I was traveling all over, I might seek that as a convenience, even if I was a little bit older. So how do you see the split of your audience? What's the demographic? What's the psychographic that you're really attracting here?
Yeah, surprisingly, in Venice, when we opened, the average age is a little older than I actually expected at first. We're seeing people pushing into their early 30s.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, the band is really kind of out of college, so 25 to 35 is sort of the average.
Colleen, I would never ever say that.
I'm not in that demographic anymore. I mean, I've got 2 kids. I've got But you know who I ask? I don't even ask the 25-year-old. I go to my 14-year-old.
Right.
I bring him to my property and I say, what do you think is cool? What are you going to want to do when you go travel with your friends, or when you're going to be in college? And what are you going to...
You better have that VR space. You better have the VR space in there for sure, right?
Yeah, right. Like in Venice, a bed, some crappy motel room pushes $350 a night in the summer. And it's about $200 a night right now. You're telling me for $50 to $75 a night for that pod, when you're putting another $150 a night into that person's pocket so they can go to the restaurants on Abercrombie, they can take that surplus and they could go partake in those experiences. That's very valuable to people. And I think that's the psyche, that people want more money in their pockets to experience life than to buy things. And the way to do that is giving them affordable accommodations. And again, if you actually make the experience where if this is what you're looking for, this is way better than a Courtyard Marriott or a Hyatt house that I build and own too. I mean, I'm in these things, but you're never going to really meet someone awesome, right, at the lobby of the Courtyard. It's just not going to happen. Like the psyche isn't there, the mentality isn't there. It's like you guys are, you know, like I use this example. There's no better place for people to banter or communicate or really open up than in an elevator in Vegas. You get into that elevator in Vegas and you're going up and people just start talking. And why is it that when you're there, people are just bantering and talking and making jokes, whereas when you're in an office building elevator, everyone's just like, I'm not talking to anyone. It's all a mindset. You put people in the right space, in the right mindset, in the right frame, they're gonna open up and have a really positive experience. And that may not even be age specific, right?
Yeah, right. I agree with you wholeheartedly on all of this kind of stuff. It's really fascinating to me. Colleen is also asking how the bathrooms work, their group bathrooms, et cetera, et cetera. I remember my dorm bathroom. That was not a good situation. I'm sure that you guys are much more conscientious about that. How are you making sure that everybody feels like it's clean, comfortable, private space for themselves?
Yeah. So our San Diego property, which is in essence, it's a big floor plate. So we have a lot of carte blanche in terms of how to design it. And that's really the model for our long-term scalable model. Mm-hmm. Our bathrooms are designed to feel more like an Equinox than a dorm room bathroom. And because we relative to how many toilets and showers we need for 240 beds, we don't need 240 showers and toilets. On a cost perspective, it's so much more efficient to build one nice common shared bathroom, male and female, than 240 toilets and showers that are not utilized.
Right.
And you actually then have the ability to turn even the bathroom into a social area. Again, look at when we go to the
I think nightclubs
or gyms, you go to a steam room where you're shaving next to some person naked. You got to talk to the person to make it comfortable. You actually
right. I want to apologize to that person who was talking to me. By the way,
right. So
I probably should not have been in the hotel lobby at the time. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, but you turn something. We're actually looking at the bathroom as a potential social element of people connecting when talking to each other. I know we just saw another comment, but even you think about girls getting ready for a night out.
That's right.
Again, you have a bachelorette party. You can only pile so many people into that bathroom, and you only have so much counter space at any given time. And how does that work? Well, again, we have the space to actually make environments that are conducive for people to socialize while they're getting ready for an event. And that's what people remember. Those little moments, we try to take those snippets of impressions. And that's the most valuable thing. And sometimes it doesn't take money. It doesn't take you buying something. It's just creating that environment.
I got one more question. How do you deal with storage if I'm staying there for multiple days?
Yeah, everyone gets assigned a locker, which is big enough to put in a carry-on bag. If you have something bigger, we have storage facilities where people can check larger items. Our Venice property actually has closets. We have people that have stayed there for months at a time. So we have dedicated closet space. We have a couple different locker solutions.
Is that an a la carte selection? I pay a little bit more to have that extra storage space kind of thing.
What was that?
Is that an a la carte selection? I pay a little bit more to have that extra storage space kind of thing.
We haven't yet. Right now, we have it in our Venice property. We haven't added that. We haven't. But that may be a good idea, Bruce. Thank you.
No problem.
I'll put that.
I got a lot of guys that are in storage and in lockers and in safes. You know, of course, the safety in the guest room for people in a communal space, I think, would be a big selling point, and certainly being able to have that additional shared space. That additional storage space available to me if I happen to have two things or a week's worth of clothes with me or something to that effect. I would need a little bit more space. I assume you also have on-site shared laundry, that kind of thing, vending, that kind of thing. All of those types of things make some sense. Probably very limited food and beverage brought in by a third party, but DoorDash is your friend, right?
Yeah, listen, again, it's just so easy right now to have room service.
Yeah.
You don't need room service. There's just so many vendors and service providers.
Right.
We've looked in our San Diego property. We've actually are thinking we're going to bring in a third-party food and beverage operator. We call that kind of an island. It's across the street from the San Diego airport. It's about a mile away from Little Italy. I'm getting really specific on. But there, we have a lot of mouths to feed. and it's in a good location that's conducive to having a ghost kitchen operator there as well.
Cool. That's
so
awesome.
We may actually be, again, we look at our properties as more like venues and try to utilize every square foot as much as possible, whether that's the opportunity for a ghost kitchen, turning in that patio space into a yoga studio at 7 a.m. or a sound bath in the evening. We really try to utilize that space as much as possible. And we're in such a beautiful time in the world where there's so many great technology and operating solutions that help real estate be more efficient. We're at such an early stage in prop tech. I mean, this is like the very beginning. We're like the last industry to adopt technology, if you really think about it, relative to everyone else.
Well, you're right about that.
We don't even need to reinvent the wheel. Let's just take what's out there and just start using it. And the DoorDashes are a perfect example of that.
Yep.
Beautiful. Bruce, did you have another question?
I didn't. No.
All right.
Great. I really enjoyed this, Steve.
Yeah, Steve, you've earned the shameless plug. How can we learn more about your business and all of that kind of stuff?
That's awesome. I had so much fun, guys.
Yeah, plug yourself. Go ahead.
Oh,
plug your company. Anything you want. All rules are off.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you kind of our asks and what we're looking for. We're looking for real estate owners that have empty space all across the U.S. that after they've heard this, they're like, wait a second, I actually may have a revenue stream because no tenants banging down my door to lease space at a 10-year triple net lease like they were years ago. So we would like to come in and we would like to operate your space, and we can get you 2x returns from what you were getting pre-COVID on a triple net lease.
Wow.
So you're going to do better than a time that no longer exists, because the concept of PricewaterhouseCoopers coming in and leasing your space for 20 years, triple net, is just not happening. They just don't need that space. So that's number one. If you've got the space, come to us and we'll give you a revenue stream. Number two, we're looking for real estate investment funds that are looking for that arbitrage to acquire that Class B and C office space at a discount, retail space at a discount, and come partner with us where we come in and we be the operating model that is actually going to create that revenue stream. You're going to come in on a great basis. You're going to get real estate in great locations. The third ask is, we're really hyper focused on sustainability, and we're really starting to push the envelope on, wait a second, what we're doing is so much better for the environment than tearing down a building and taking, 3 years to build something ground up. So we're looking for people that are aligned with us from a sustainability perspective of how do we make getting a bed online and getting a person in that bed to leave as little of a footprint on our environment as possible. There's not a ton of data around that, but we're really looking to partner with people they're passionate about helping the environment, getting people in the places where they need to be without needing to travel around a lot. So those are the three asks: space, real estate investors, and people that are interested in sustainability.
All right, now we got one more question from you, from a friend of the show, Daniel. He noticed social media, and it's amazing how YouTube has been a powerful tool when people want to window shop for accommodations. Everyone wants to see what others are seeing. How can the hospitality industry use this as a benefit?
Yeah, that's listen. One of the first people we hired at Stay Open is a chief creative officer. He's a filmmaker, music video director, and that's because we need to tell stories. And hotel companies don't do a good job of telling stories. And the Hyatts and Marriotts out of the world, it always looks like they're the canned images of people drinking a martini, laughing by a poolside with.
The next thing you're going to say, Steve, is there's a picture of a woman with rocks on her back before she gets a massage,
Right, exactly. Like, it's all the same stuff, and that's not what the creator economy. If you go to our social media page now, at Always Stay Open on Instagram, and you look at our reels and you look at our posts and you look at what we're doing, they're visually appealing. Again, we're an affordable product, but it's extremely visually appealing. And the content that we're actually creating naturally, we have content creators coming into our space. We had 3 people perform at our Halloween party. I will put my house on the line that one of those 3 people will be extremely successful and famous one day. They each have about 10,000 followers. We call them tastemakers. They're on the cutting edge of their genres in music. And we're allowing them to come into our space to perform, to give them a platform, to give them an audience, to give them a place to stay. And that's where social media isn't about regurgitating what people did. It's how can you find the originality within yourself to tell the story about yourself and to align yourself with creators and influencers, not hire them. You got to get the people to want to come into your space. You don't, if you pay people, they'll do it, but it's not genuine. You got to get the people to want to do that yoga class from your space with 15,000 followers, which I'm about to go to, and then talk about it from the rooftop. I mean, what better advertising is there than a yoga instructor with 15,000 followers on the rooftop of a Stay Open talking about how awesome the people were, how awesome that experience was. That's the power of the creator economy that hospitality needs to embrace. It's just really hard, guys, because most of the people in hospitality look more like us than the people that were at my Halloween party, and the consumers of the product are more, I guess, for me, they're again another demographic that's what they're looking to. They're on platforms that few of us even know about, right? They're on Discord, they're on different things that are emerging. By the time we hear about it, it's almost too late.
I know my kids have been talking about Discord for years, and I'm still clueless, but what are you going to do? A little willful ignorance? A little willful ignorance never hurt anybody. Nope, not at all. All right, Steve, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you, man.
Glenn,
thank
Bruce,
you.
Thanks so much, guys. Really
take care. Be good. All right, that was freaking awesome. This again, I love when people come up to me and they say, "Hey, man, great to see you again. Let's get me on that show," because we got a great conversation born out of that. I think a lot of us got some terrific ideas. What are you taking away from it?
Totally unique concept here, Glenn. Obviously, right on the beginning of really the creation of moving across the United States, which we're all very interested in how that plays together. One of the things that's unique that he has very well packaged is it is not about the person that's out there today. He is making something for the next person that's coming in, which again, the brands aren't able to do, but he's going to be able to do it with that concept. So I applaud what he's trying to do there, and I certainly see a window of opportunity for investment on that without question.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to it. Really, really interesting stuff. And speaking of interesting stuff, Bruce, what about our audio podcast? Anthony and I do the show every day, but sometimes people can't watch it. They want to hear guys like you. They want to hear guys like Steve Shpilsky when they're out on their walks, when they're walking their dog, when they're taking their commute to the latest Stay Open hotel from their pod to the lobby. Listen on Apple Podcasts. Check it out on iHeartRadio. Check us out wherever you get your shows. Of course, Anthony's at Anthony Hotels. I am at Traveling Glenn, and he is BFNNH.
And certainly, Glenn, we will have a bonus episode in the next week where you and I will do another podcast, and we'll talk in greater detail about some of the things we talked about straight away this morning.
And look out. Subscribe to the audio feed because that might be audio only, people. Because my hair is getting a little long. I'm tired of getting dressed up, and I like doing these audio feeds.
Great to be with you today, Glenn.
Yeah, man. Great to be with you too. Bruce, you got to come up with a quick catchphrase because I'm going to say mine. Remember, everybody, you've got one life, so blaze on and
happy traveling.
All right. See you guys soon. Take care.